do we work with the moon? Or why is it good for you to work with the moon and the moon phases? So there's a lot to this, which is why I'm making a video. So when we work with the moon, we are getting back into connection with nature. And one of the reasons why we are so disconnected from ourselves and from our community, different ailments, mental and physical, that we have, is this disconnection from nature, that we are a part of nature and nature is a part of us. And with that being said, nature has these different cycles, right? Right now, we're in the winter cycle at this point in time. So the winter cycle is all about rest and more introspective and hibernating. But there's different parts of the season, like in the summer, where everybody's out and they're going places, and there's spring, and then there's fall. So these are like the natural cycles. And there's also cycles in aging. There are cycles in day and night, and also with the moon, and also with women, cycles with our period as well. So working with the moon is really great, especially for women, because the moon is associated more with the feminine and the archetype of goddess. And so working with at first, to start out, working with the new moon, full moon, is really good to kind of get your gauge for how you are feeling. And also working with what is called the dark moon or the balsamic moon. So this kind of gets you into the different aspects of the moon. So working with the new moon is good because this is where you start to plant your seeds. You start to think about the things that you want to bring into your life. And that starts at the new moon. I'm a hand talker, I can't help it. And so from the new moon, you go into the waxing. And this waxing cycle is more where you are really ramping up and you're doing things. You tend to have a lot more energy during this time. This is also a time to start something new. If you want to start something new, like an exercise program, maybe get a new haircut, a new dye color. And so from the waxing moon, this is this whole, like, you have a lot more energy and drive here. And then when you get to the full moon, this is considered the end of like the yang cycle. So yang is more active, right? Masculine, more doing. So when you get to the full moon is where, if you did make an intention or a manifestation or a wish, by now, by the full moon, you should have a really good idea of if it's coming true, if it's coming into fruition, if it's on its way, or thinking about, is there something that I need to do differently? Is this still something I want to bring in? And really just releasing your wishes and your manifestations out into the universe for them to be whatever they are. Just trusting that either it's going to come to you or it's not, or something new is going to come into your awareness. So that's why at the full moon, we do a lot of releasing, okay? Because when you release, you allow other things to come into your life. And you'll see a lot of people do full moon circles. And this is because during this time, especially women, the energies around the full moon is a lot of gathering. And you might be very sociable at this time too, at the full moon. Okay, so that ends the yang part of the cycle, okay? And then you go in from the full moon on, you go into the yin cycle. So from the full moon, it goes into waning. So that means that the moon is at its peak at the full moon, so very bright. And then it starts to get darker again. So it's going into the waning or the yin phase, which is more of the feminine aspect of the moon. And in this phase, you're starting to slow down a little bit, okay? You're starting to just trust. You are releasing. you're slowing things down, you're wrapping things up. So things that need to come to a close, you're letting them come to a close, and you're just kind of going with the flow here. And then after the waning comes the dark moon, and it's also called the balsamic moon. And the dark moon, of course, is what it is. It's dark. So during the waning cycle as well, you are releasing. You're continuing to release, you're reflecting, and you're wrapping things up. But at the time of the dark moon, that is when you are really wanting to. So it's right before the new moon starts. So at the dark moon, that's when you are releasing. If there's anything else that you need to release that you haven't released from the full moon and then the waning cycle, anything that keeps coming up, keeps triggering you, in the dark moon, that is where you want to really just surrender and release, because you are trying to get yourself in a place of neutrality and clarity, so that when the new moon comes again, you can start fresh. So this dark moon is all about resting, all about reflection, and all about releasing. And I explain all of this in more context in my workbooks. And then the cycle starts over again, back into the new moon. And what is really great about following the cycles of the new moon is, one, if you are someone who still has their period, it's really great to track this with the moon, because it gives you great insight in when to plan something and when not to plan something. The other thing with the after the full moon into the waning moon, normally this is a time to not really start anything new, because you might not have the stamina to really complete it. Okay, there's so much I want to tell you about this, but just trying to give you the important bits of it. But in following these cycles, why it's important is because aligning yourself with the cycles allows you to align with your natural cycles. So not always on the go. You're not always doing, going. You have time where you say, oh, this is the time. I know I am ramping up. I'm going to get all my stuff done, so much stuff done during maybe this new moon and this waxing cycle. And then you know that after the full moon into your waning, into the dark moon, that's whenever you are pulling the pieces together, you're wrapping things up, and you are releasing. You are letting things go, anything that has been on your mind, any kind of limiting beliefs. And just a word here is that whatever you ignore in this beginning phase of the lunar cycle, it tends to rear its head at the end, okay? So really paying attention to these cycles of when to take action, when to be busy, when to pull these all-nighters, right? When it's a time of maybe frustration and you need to ease into things, and when you need to relax, not push anything, not start anything new, and really just surrender and take the time to rest, okay? We don't take the time to rest. So if you can follow the cycles, it will help you to get in better balance, to feel less stuck, to feel less frustrated, and coming into alignment with your energy and how you're supposed to work. Things will flow easier, your life, your day, the things that you plan, you'll manifest easier as well. There's just so many positives. So I encourage you to take a look at the workbook or send me any questions that you have on it. But happy day to you. And I wish you the most beautiful day today.